Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Raja Jana Ranjana Raja Jana Ranjana Atira Manachari Atira Manachari Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadvip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Cell phone check. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam 4:20-14. Shreya
Shreya
Praja
Praja
Palanam
Palanam
Eva
Eva
Ragyo
Ragyo
Yat
Yat
Samparaye
Samparaye
Sukrita
Sukrita
Shashtam
Shashtam
Angsham
Amsham
Harta
Harta
Anyata
Anyata
Hita
Pita
Punyaha
Punyaha
Prajanam
Prajanam
Parakshita
Parashita
Vara
Kara
Haro
Hara
Nakam
Agam
Ati
Ati
Shreya Prajapalanameva Ragyo
Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo
Yat Sampadaye Sukritat Shashtamansham
Yasamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham
Partanyata Rita Punya Prajanam
Kritanyata Ritapunya Prajanam
Arakshita Kora Haro Kamati
Parashita Kara Arogamanati
Shreya Prajapalanameva Ragyo
Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo
Yat Sampadaye Sukritat Shashtamansham
Yasamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham
Partanyata Rita Punya Prajanam
Partanyata Ritapunya Prajanam
Arakshita Karaharo Kamati
Arakshita Karaharogamanati Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shashtamamsham Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham Partanyata Ritapunya Prajanam Partanyata Ritapunya Prajanam Arakshita Karaharo Kamati Arakshita Karaharo Kamati Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham Artanyata Rita Punya Prajanam Artanyata Rita Punya Prajanam Arakshita Karohara Kamati Arakshita Karohara Kamati
Please.
Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo
Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo
Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham
Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham
Partanyata Ritapunya Prajna
Partanyata Ritapunya Prajanam
Arshita Karaharo Tamati
Arakshita Karaharo Kamati
Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo
Shreya Prajapalanam Evarajyo
Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham
Yatsamparaye Sukritat Shastamamsham
Artanyata Rita Punya Prajanam
Kartayata Vita Punya Prajanam
Arakshita Kara Harogam Ati
Arashita Karaharogamati
Shreyaha,
Shreya
auspicious.
Auspicious
Praja,
Praja
Pavanam,
Pavanam
ruling over the general mass of people.
ruling over the general mass of people.
Eva,
Eva
certain.
certainly.
Ragyaha,
Ragyaha
for the king.
for the king.
Yat,
Yat
because.
because.
Samparaye,
Samparaye
in the next birth.
in the next birth.
Sukrata,
Sukrata
from the pious activities.
from the pious activities.
Shashtamangsham,
Shashtamangsham
1/6 part.
1/6 part.
Arta,
Arta
collector.
collector.
Anyata,
Anyata
otherwise.
otherwise.
Krita punyaha,
Vita punyaha
being bereft of the results
being bereft of the results
of pious activities.
of pious activities.
Prajanam,
Prajanam
of the citizens.
of the citizens.
Orokshita,
Rakshita
one who does not protect.
one who does not protect.
Karaharaha,
Karaharaha
tax collector.
tax collector.
Agham,
Arham
sin.
sin.
Ati,
Ati
receives or suffers.
receives or suffers.
To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is the prescribed occupational duty of the king, for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of state who simply collects taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens. In exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. The question may be raised here that if everyone engaged in spiritual activities to attain salvation and became indifferent to the activities of the material world, then how could things as they are go on? And if things are to go on as they ought to, how can a head of state be indifferent to such activities? In answer to this question, the word Shreyaha, auspicious, is used here. The division of activities in society as arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead was not blindly or accidentally created, as foolish people say. The Brahmin must do his duty properly, and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and even the Shudra must do the same. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life, liberation from this material bondage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18:45. Sve sve karmanya pirata samsiddhim labhate maraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. Om Jnana-timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shagrashatam Shahagana Gaganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pravishana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lodika Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenavanto Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanchako Pitarubhyascha Prabhasindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this was the first point, that spiritual life doesn't mean inactivity. It doesn't mean that we neglect ordinary affairs. Rather, everyone has some particular duty to perform. Whether it's everyone has some particular duty to perform. The Brahmins are to study, teach, to become learned and make others learned, to engage in sacrifice and engage others in sacrifice, to accept charity and distribute charity. These are the Brahminical activities. And then the Kshatriyas have their duties, especially in protecting the citizens. The Vaishyas have the duty of protecting the animals and cultivating the land and promoting trade. And the Shudras assist. So all of these, and Sve Sve Karmanya Virata Samsiddhim Lavatena. What is that sutra? Ita pravitir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vidyatima. By performing prescribed duties, everyone can attain perfection. It's not that the Brahmins only can attain perfection, or the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, everyone. But the qualification is to be engaged in the service of Krishna. That's Shreya. Shreya Svatarmo Vigana Paradharma Svanushtita. One should perform one's own duties and not try to perform the duties of others. Then everything will go on nicely. Lord Vishnu advised Maharaj Prithu that a king is not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of protecting the prajas, or citizens, to instead go away to the Himalayas for liberation. That was Arjuna's idea when at Kurukshetra, let me go out to the forest. Better to do that than fight against my relatives. Krishna said, no, it's your duty, you have to do it. So the king has to protect the citizens, not just he can. He can attain liberation while executing his royal duties. The royal duty, or the duty of the head of state, is to see that the prajas, or the general mass of people, are doing their respective duties for spiritual salvation. Everyone has some duty to do. The king is responsible to see that everyone is engaged. There should be no unemployment. Everyone should be doing something according to his capabilities. A secular state does not necessitate a king or head of state who's indifferent to the activities of the prajas. In the modern state, the government has many rules and regulations for conducting the duties of the prajas, but the government neglects to see that the citizens advance in spiritual knowledge. If the government is careless in this matter, the citizens will act whimsically, without any sense of God realization or spiritual life, and thus become entangled in sinful activities. The king should see to it that everyone is performing his duties, that everyone has the necessities of life, and the greatest necessity is Krishna consciousness. If there's not Krishna consciousness, the state will be in chaos. If there's not spiritual consciousness, the state will be in chaos. Prabhupada one time wrote to Hridayananda Maharaj as GBC man, and told him that that your business is to see that everyone is chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles, then management will be at your fingertips. If the devotees are following, then they'll be happy in Krishna consciousness, they'll be enthusiastic, everything will be there. Then management is easy, because everyone wants to serve. But if there's neglect of the regulative principles of chanting 16 rounds, rising early in the morning, and so on, then everyone starts to be clouded over by mixed motives and so on. And then management is very difficult. Prabhu, could you do? No, I have to. Prabhu, could you? No. Prabhu, could you? Yeah, but only if this person's not there, and so on. So these things all enter when there's lack of Krishna consciousness. Family life becomes difficult, temple life becomes difficult, civic life becomes difficult, work life becomes difficult. If the proprietor of the business is not Krishna conscious, he just wants to exploit the workers. The workers don't want to be exploited, and their minds are dissatisfied no matter what they get. And so they rebel, and everything is difficult. But if there's cooperation in Krishna consciousness, then things can go nicely. An executive head should not be callous to the welfare of the general mass of people, while he simply goes on collecting taxes. This is the business of the modern politicians, to loot, to steal from the citizens. He doesn't care about their welfare. He cares about what he can get. I have only 4 years in office. I have to make the most of it. We heard that one leading politician in South Africa, upon being voted into office, said that now it's our turn to eat. To feed ourselves at the expense of the citizens. The king's real duty is to see that the citizens gradually become fully Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious means completely free from all sinful activities. As soon as there's complete eradication of sinful activities in the state, then there will be no more war, pestilence, famine, or natural disturbances. They're worried about global warming, but they want to go on with sinful activities like anything. And then what will be the result? If there's not global warming, there'll be global cooling, or there'll be something else. There'll be disease, there'll be pandemics, there'll be whatever there is. Otherwise, if they're Krishna conscious, things will be good. This was actually prevailing during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira. If a king or head of the government is able to induce the citizens to become Krishna conscious, then he's worthy to rule over the mass of people. Otherwise, he has no right to levy taxes. If the king looks after the spiritual interests of the citizens, he can levy taxes without difficulties. In this way, both the subjects and the king will be happy during this life, and in the next life, the king will be able to share 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. Otherwise, by levying taxes on the sinful citizens, he will have to share the reactions of their sinful activities. So, to become head of state or to take up any political post is not for the enjoyment of the post holder. It's for the welfare of the subordinates. He has a great responsibility. If the heads of state are irresponsible, then they just want to enjoy, especially by taking advantage of tax money. They'll, one way or another, they'll line their pockets, they'll refurbish their estates, they'll purchase luxurious amenities, they'll spread the wealth around to their friends and supporters. In this way, they'll cheat, or they think they'll cheat. They'll. There's a interesting. Let's look at the word for word. The tax. He's taking taxes. So Kodahara, he's the tax collector. He's taking away from the citizens some tax money. But if he doesn't use it properly, then Krita Punya, he takes away their tax money, and they take away his pious credit. And then he becomes, he becomes bereft of pious credit, rather Krita Punya, and he becomes sinful. Aghamati, Arakshita, because he's not giving them protection. Just like in some countries, there's no protection of life and property. So that means that the state administration is bad. And where the state is strong, then the citizens will not be worried that someone may break into my house, someone may break into my car, someone may this, that. I don't know. When the king is good, we're safe. But the best protection First of all, even materially, if the citizens are trained in Krishna consciousness, then you'll have good people. They'll be satisfied. They'll be happy. And apart from that, apart from being able to protect the citizens from material problems, they'll protect them from birth and death, which is their real duty. The same principle can be applied to parents and spiritual masters as well. If parents simply give birth to children like cats and dogs, but cannot save their children from imminent death, they become responsible for the activities of their animalistic children. Lately, such children are turning into hippies. So that's the beauty. It's not just, oh, we'd like to have children. The house will be full of nice children. But the Pitana Sasyat Janani Sasyat Namochya Samupetya Mrityu. One shouldn't become a mother or father unless able to save the person under his charge, save his children from birth and death. That's the injunction. What is the use of raising little animals who have no spiritual realization? So it's a great responsibility. Similarly, if a spiritual master cannot direct his disciples to become free of sinful activities, he becomes responsible for their sinful acts. So, Gururna Sasyat, one shouldn't become a guru unless he can save persons under his charge from the clutches of birth and death. He has to give them proper direction. And from their side, the disciples have to follow. Otherwise, what is they're not only ruining their own lives, they're causing difficulty for the spiritual master. And the spiritual master should be careful about accepting unqualified disciples. Not that we're eager for disciples, so we accept any nonsense rascal who's got some money or can do something for me. That's to see whether they're willing to follow and give up sinful activities. These subtle laws of nature are unknown to the present leaders of society. Since the leaders of society have a poor fund of knowledge, and the citizens in general are rogues and thieves, there cannot be an auspicious situation for human society. At the present moment, the whole world is full of such an incompatible combination of states and citizens. Therefore, there's constant tension, war, and anxiety as an inevitable result of such social conditions. If the whole society is just fools and rascals, thieves and rogues, with the king as the chief rogue, then how can there be anything good? The leader should be an ideal administrator and Krishna conscious, and then we can expect that the citizens will be properly cared for. Otherwise, we'll have pandemonium. All right, some questions, comments, etc. Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm thinking about in a spiritual society, it seems that if all that weight is on the leader,
If which what?
If all that weight of responsibility is on the leader, but policing only works so much.
Therefore policing is not the thing. It's not that if we have a spiritual society, then the temple president is chief of police. First of all, Prabhupada, we should be a little careful who joins. They should not be, Prabhupada said, lazies and crazies. And then you're not even the head of rogues and thieves, you're the head of the lunatic asylum. So not lazies and crazies, but candidates who have some sincerity, that let me come and take up this path of spiritual realization, let me come and serve. Such sincere candidates, not those who are thinking, oh, big society, they've got a lot of money, I could be sitting pretty, I could at least, I'll be comfortable, they provide you a nice place to stay, they provide you nice food, the girls are good, so let me come. No, we should see that those who are coming are sincere. They may not be pure devotees, but at least they should be willing to take up the process. Just like students, they may not be PhDs on the day they enroll, but they should be serious about the process of study. Now, of course, it's just a business so often, the so-called education, and the students are, anyway, don't get me started. But the idea is like that those who are sincere, even in business, you're looking for an employee who's going to be responsible in the work of the company, not someone who's going to just look for an opportunity to embezzle or to steal. That's the first thing. We should see that the candidates are sincere candidates. And then we should teach them how to follow. These are the most important things. 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds. Then rising early in the morning, attending the class, and so on. Then Prabhupada said, management's at your fingertips. Because the devotees will be enlivened. The devotees will be making progress. So they'll be eager to serve. In an environment where the devotees are all following and eager to serve, you have Vaikuntha. There may be some disagreement here or there may be some difficulty here or there, but you get a good progress. Then sometimes you have to police, even in a well-run state, or even in a well-run spiritual institution, sometimes there's nonsense that goes on. And then the leader has to take action. No, this can't go on. This is what you have to do, this is what you can't do. And not everything will run on automatically. But the focus should be to see that the devotees are spiritually strong. Then everything else. Otherwise, if we're just economic development, send out a party, bring in the money. Then what happens over time is that the collectors become weak, and then you lose the collection, the collector, everything. If it just becomes a business, we need to make money, and everyone who joins is meant for bringing in cash, then things will degrade. Our business is to spread Krishna consciousness. That we have to see. So everyone should be engaged in practicing Krishna consciousness, spreading Krishna consciousness. And the leader should be expert how to give a little challenge so that people have to rise to meet it, how to enliven people to serve, how to teach them properly. And it can be very, very nice. Okay. remember in Vrindavan at one point, our temple had become quite, what's the word? Well, degraded. The pujaris, not the pujaris, the collectors were getting a good cut of the collection, so they would descend like vultures dressed in silk. They would descend on the pilgrims to make them members or to get contributions from them so that they could get their cut or more. And so many things were going on like that. Everyone was just on the take. So two mean devotees were put in charge. Two tough, not mean, but tough devotees were put in charge. One of them, Devaki Nandan Prabhu from Bombay, brought in his accountant to take charge of the accounts because there was no accounting. Or there was, but not proper accounting. So as soon as the accountant was appointed and took charge, immediately the expenses dropped dramatically because everyone had a little straw that was inserted somewhere in the system, and they're sucking up the capital of the temple because that's why they were there, to eat, sleep, and collect for themselves. So as soon as the proper man took charge of the finances, the expenses just went way down. Then people were complaining, the brahmacharis went on strike, because brahmacharis were also on the take. But the management, all right, you'll leave, good. You have our blessings, leave. But it was like hosing down hosing down the temple. Some people left, other people had to toe the line, and then the things were nice. Devotee with a light touch and saintly character took over. But he could only do it because the place had been hosed down. So everything, expert manager, he knows how to inspire, he knows how to encourage, he knows how to enliven, and he also knows where he has to be strong. This can't happen, this can't go on, this can't be allowed. Okay. Another question? Lazies and crazies.
Marge, the social system that's described by Prabhupada 30 odd years ago or more, so much worse now.
Yeah.
All the corruption and from the top to the bottom, it almost seems like it's a hopeless effort to try and correct. But then we are moved by our mission to go and preach and try to restore that situation,
First thing, we should see that our own house is in order. Otherwise, you want to take charge, look at your temple, it's a mess. There's no accounting, you're lazies and crazies, decision making is foolish, is that. Why should we follow your example? We're being worse off than we are. So our own management should be nice, our own members should be ideal. People should look up to them, such nice people, such excellent conduct. So that's the first thing we should see, that we ourselves individually and as a group are to be standard of Krishna consciousness. And then make others Krishna conscious. If we can influence the leaders, good. If not, influence the followers. And at some point, Prabhupada said the followers will throw out the leaders. They'll demand, we want Krishna conscious leaders. That may seem utopian or unrealistic, but who would have thought that the Krishna consciousness movement would spread all over the world as it has? So there's more to come. There's more to come. But we should be thinking how to make these things happen. Is that okay? Yeah. Something else? Krishna, 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 Krishna. Yes.
I was just wondering about, especially with like parents and children, it seems to be at some point, no matter how much a parent does, the child is then an adult and then has to take responsibility for themselves. There's a
Yeah.
parent then accountable.
That's, the parents can't control the life of the child after the child has grown up and so on. Therefore, you get a window in which to do this while the child is can be educated, especially from a young age. The young age, you know, what argument will he give? What alternative does he have? He has to follow, or he'll naturally be inclined to follow. And then we have to protect the children from bad association. That's a challenge. But by bad association, even good children can be ruined. So to train them very expertly and to engage them in Krishna consciousness, so that they'll have good association and not degrading association. Big challenge. Maybe it's easier to run a temple. Anything else? All right. Hare Krishna.